Summer is the season of flippy phones, and Motorola is the company to watch in that space. It has not one but two new models in 2024. The flagship Razr Plus version that we have in this cool green color, and then the regular non-plus model, the Razr 2024, here in a fiery spritz orange. The big difference between these two is price. The Razr Plus is available for $900, while the regular Razr costs $700. And just by the looks of it, they are so similar, I can barely tell them apart. So you might think, why not just save up and buy the cheaper model? Well, let me tell you more about the differences because there are some things you should know before buying one. We have to give it to Motorola. It nailed the styling. Both of these are so slim when folded, and the back is also made of vegan leather, so it is not slippery like glass. And best of all, there is no compromise with the build quality. The hinge seems to be the same on both of them, and it feels reassuringly solid. And both also have IPX8 water protection, which is great. There is one difference you see right away though, and that is the outer screen on the Razr Plus. It goes edge to edge, while the non-plus model has a slightly smaller screen. It is a noticeable difference, 3.6 inches versus 4 inches, but probably not a deal breaker on its own. The Razr Plus also has smoother scrolling with a higher refresh rate. And then you open them up and the main screen is the same size on both, 6.9 inches. Both are OLED panels of course with beautiful colors, but we noticed that the non-plus model doesn't get as bright. And on a sunny day it was a bit harder seeing the screen outdoors. As we said, the bigger differences are on the inside, so let's just start with those. And first is the processor. The Plus model is powered by the Snapdragon 8s Gen 3, which is a very fast chip, only a beat slower than the flagship Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. The non-plus model, however, well, it runs on the MediaTek Dimensity 7300, and the difference, well, it's kind of big. In daily use, the non-plus model still does fine, maybe with an occasional stutter, but if you load up something more demanding, you see its limitations. Now here in the Geekbench 6 benchmark, the Plus model had nearly 80% faster single-core performance, and some 25% faster for multi-core, and it's an even bigger difference for gaming. The Razr Plus scores an impressive nearly 3000 points on 3D Mark Wildlife, and the non-plus version only gets a measly 860 points. That's massive. Now do keep in mind though that after a few minutes the Plus version will throttle to around 1600 points, while the non-plus model keeps on running at about the same score of around 860 points, no throttling. But still, gamers should definitely just get the Plus model, it's much faster. And what about AI? Well, you can make some fancy wallpapers with AI on Motorola phones, but it seems that AI is more of a thing of the future. Still, you probably know that RAM memory is super important for AI, and the Razr Plus model has 12 GB of RAM, while the non-plus model only has 8 gigs, so there's that. Okay, performance is definitely a win for the Razr Plus, but what about camera quality? Now, both have a dual camera system, but the second camera is actually different. You have a 2x zoom telephoto camera on the Razr Plus, while the vanilla model has an ultra-wide camera. Most of the time, however, you will still be using the main camera, and it's a 50 megapixel sensor on both phones. Same specs, f1.7 aperture, but don't expect the same image quality. Now the Razr Plus captures more detail and colors are a bit more pleasing. On the vanilla model, when you look closer, well, detail is average at best, and colors often appear a bit bluish, and there are significant issues with over-sharpening. If you're not too picky, you might be okay with all of that, but you will be making a compromise. In low light, both are not doing great, but the Razr Plus can capture a bit more light, which is good. And the Plus model's biggest camera advantage has got to be that dedicated 2x zoom lens. At 10x zoom, just look at the difference. It's massive, and the Razr Plus is way more capable. But even at 5x, the amount of detail is just poor on the vanilla model. We can only recommend using levels of around 3x zoom on the vanilla model, where the quality is more or less okay. Now you have one theoretical advantage here on the regular Razr version. It has an ultra ultra-wide camera. And it's a decent camera, as long as you don't expect too much out of it. During the day, quality is not bad, colors look nice, but you don't get much detail. In low light, however, it is just too dark, and you should probably forget about using it. Now for selfies, you get to use the main camera on both, and this means quality is better than on a non-flip phone. It's quite good. For video quality, both look quite good, and they support 4K 30 video, but only the Plus model supports 4K 60, and it also has a big advantage with zoom quality. Alright, final point, battery life. The regular Razr comes with actually a 5% bigger battery, 4200 mAh versus 4000 on the Plus version. Of course, we ran a bunch of our in-house battery tests on both of these phones, and here's what we got. On our lightest web browsing battery test, the regular model scores 18 hours and 37 minutes, while the Plus version lasted 17 hours and 10 minutes, which is slightly worse. But then on our second test, YouTube video streaming, actually the Plus version lasted nearly 30% longer, for 13 hours and 4 minutes, compared to 10 hours and 38 minutes on the non-Plus model. So in real use, we would say the Plus model, despite having a smaller battery, actually might last slightly longer. And then the Plus version also charges a bit faster too. It supports 45 watt charge speeds versus 30 watt on the regular model. A 30-minute top-up gives you 70% charge on the Plus model and only 59% on the regular. We also measured the time for a full charge that takes 52 minutes on the Plus model and exactly 60 minutes or 1 hour for the non-Plus. And for wireless charging, you only have it on the Plus model, but it's quite slow at just 5 watts, so we're not sure if that's such a benefit after all. Now, time to answer the big question. Should you spend more and buy the $900 Motorola Razr Plus? Or is it a better idea to save up and get the $700 regular version? Our recommendation is go with the Plus model. Its better camera, faster performance, and bigger outer screen are things that you will notice. It's still great that Motorola offers a cheaper flip phone with the vanilla Razr, and one that feels quality made too, but for budget buyers, our advice is to wait for a good deal on it. So which one would you go for? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for sticking until the end, and I'll see you in the next one.